Welcome back to What Makes You Tick. I'm Stephen Bradshaw, and the reason I created this podcast is to help you find inspiration from the stories and experiences of others. What Makes You Tick is a vehicle for people to share their life's knowledge, their passions, and experiences with you. I get energy and inspiration from talking to people, and my goal through this platform is to help you learn from others and use this knowledge to inform your lives. My guest today is singer-songwriter Will Purdue. Will is a gentleman and a deep thinker. The music you've just heard is a recent single he wrote for Riona Kelly, who suffered a horrendous accident and as a result was paralysed. This single was released to help fund Riona's rehabilitation, and she and her partner Keith Mason aim to complete 100 miles. Keith will pull Riona 99 miles in a wheelchair, and Riona will then fight to walk the final mile, which, to be fair, is remarkable. The song highlights their journey together, and Will speaks to me about the challenges he faced and the pressure he put on himself to create something he could be proud of. In the first part of this conversation, Will and I discussed the effects of music and what it can have on our emotions, our thinking, and the way it puts into words feelings we find so difficult to express. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you all do too. Ladies and gentlemen, here is my discussion and conversation with Will Purdue. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Will Purdue to What Makes You Tick. Will, thank you very much for joining me. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. Trying to, as I was thinking, meandering through this mental new world that we live in, but getting through it. How's it going over there in the UK?
Yeah, it's good. It's again, meandering is probably a good term for it. The restrictions are a little bit confusing because I'm right on the edge of London, so it kind of, I think once you go a couple of miles, the restrictions are different. So there's kind of stuff with that. But at the moment, we're in like tier 2 here. If we could stay there, then that would kind of be okay for me personally.
Yeah. It's I think everybody's different, but listen, hopefully everybody stays safe and well, and that's the main thing. So, Will, I wanted to talk to you about a number of different things that you do. So for people who are listening, Will is a singer-songwriter and has been involved in the music industry for years. And I think that might be the nicest part and place to start, Will, would be to maybe understand what music means to you and what was the catalyst that sent you down this path to be a songwriter and musician.
Yeah, I think so. I got into music at school. I remember quite clearly one of my friends started learning guitar, and we found like an old guitar up in my dad's loft, and so we just out in the garden. I was just bashing away, and it was great. And it's like had no idea what we were doing. Probably had like one chord between us, but from that point, it's I just got really into it, and I kind of turned away from the whole like grading and intellectual side of it, I guess, and just got really into playing. And so then I was playing guitar in bands here and there, but I got really into making my own music at home. I just had like an old 8-track, which I actually think I'm going to get another one. I've kind of been down the whole, music recording on my Mac and all that stuff. And I don't know, it doesn't beat the old, like, I mean, what was good about it was that like, I'd record demos at home and I'd have to record it the whole way through. There's no editing, no chopping around. So actually, it really kind of made you play
Frank
better.
Sinatra approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically, I had these demos, and I got introduced to a good friend now, who's like, always been a musician, and he was like, "Hey, look, let's just record these for the fun of it." And then he was kind of like, "Well, look, these are actually good songs. Let's get some more musicians in and do something with them." And then that kind of just spiraled, and I started doing gigs off the back of that, and kind of, yeah, it just kind of spiraled. It wasn't really ever an intentional thing to be like, okay, I'm a singer-songwriter, you know, I'm a front man, I'm going to go out and do my thing. It was more like, just, I was doing music all the time anyway, and just a couple of like nudges and a bit of encouragement here and there, and I just ended up, that's what I was doing. And then just became a really exciting thing to see how far I could push it.
And who would you say has been your kind of influence, or are there any kind of songwriters or singers or musicians that have influenced you and the style of music that you create?
Definitely. I mean, my main ones, like Leonard Cohen, massively, in that, you know, he's probably technically not the best singer in the world, but the emotion and the poetry and the lyrics and the way that he can paint a scene. And I kind of think, I, you know, listened to him a lot. I was kind of like, oh, maybe I could do, you know, I'm never going to be like a, I don't know, I can't think of a Malcolm, but I'm never going to be like a big show singer. But then you're like, oh, there's, you know, Bob Dylan, people like that, they can really do their own thing. And so that was a massive, massive influence for me. And that really got me kind of more into like the lyric writing and kind of working out my own style. And then, yeah, the National are a massive influence, and particularly like in two ways. One, because again, I feel like they paint these really amazing scenes, and whatever mood you're in, there's something for you there. But also at the same time, they're like massive now. They're like a, you know, a huge band, but their first album came out in 2001. So I think they got together in like 98, 99, and they've just taken off the last few years. And, you know, the singer was already 30 when the album came out. And that's been really influential in that, like, actually, there is like a long road ahead. If you really kind of stick to making the music you want to make or the art that you want to make, then there is like, it doesn't have to be like when you're 25, it could be when you're 50.
Well, I think that's actually really interesting because you sometimes see through media eyes overnight successes. However, those overnight successes probably took a decade or so to get to that moment, to create that moment. And from speaking to a number of my guests over the last 2 seasons, it's interesting that one of the biggest themes that comes across is consistency. And it is to consistently keep doing what you're doing in order to see progression and to see growth and to create opportunities. A lot of people will find that they'll do something for a short period of time and then they'll essentially fall off the bandwagon. Whereas if you're consistent, and regardless of what the noises from external factors are having, if you're consistent with yourself, if you're true to yourself, and if you're honest about what you're trying to achieve, then those opportunities and those doors will eventually open potentially. What's your thinking about that? Do you think that would be something that you kind of focus on, is just consistently playing and consistently writing, and then eventually something will happen?
Like, definitely. I think you've beautifully summed up where I was trying to get to, actually. But yeah, and just that real persistence. I think for me, like, it's a persistence and staying around, and obviously then doing something that you really believe in with people that you believe in and trust. And I really feel like that in the last year, I've suddenly got like the most amazing group of kind of friends and bandmates and just people that I'm working with that I really believe in and trust. And also just treating people well. And I think then the opportunities will come. And then also there's going to be a lot of challenges with that, and just facing that and accepting that's part of it. You know, like a case in point, like I went on tour with Echo and the Bunnymen last year, and there was a little bit of a stumbling block in that I was meant to be going up to Edinburgh, and then there was a gig the night before in Leeds, which basically just hadn't quite been organised, and then I got added to that last minute, and all my travel plans were kind of scuppered, and there was issue with like flights and all this stuff. But it all got sorted because I knew that I had to be at the gig, and you know, like someone from their team lent me a guitar, and all these things just fell into place because I knew that I had to do it, and like whatever way I had to be there. So it kind of all came together.
Yeah, one of the things that I've always found with music, and I love music, so music that's influenced me over the years would be the likes of the Rat Pack, and um, I love kind of melodic music. Ludovico is somebody that I listen to quite a lot, and on the piano side of things.
Yes.
But for me, I kind of like that kind of emotive music, and I like things just to kind of chill and relax. And I find that with music, it has an amazing way of sharing feelings and emotions, and essentially sometimes kind of putting into words what people may find difficult to say on an everyday basis. Would this be something that kind of reigns true for you?
For sure. I think, yeah, music's an amazing way of getting out the emotion from the writing side, for getting out the emotion that's there. Or the other way for me is to go into scenarios that, for example, to test out something. So say, for example, that I was not very comfortable in a relationship. I can write a song about leaving that relationship or having my head turned, or without having to go there, I can almost emotionally process something before I do it. And I can also kind of make something that makes me feel less stressed and less hurt, in the same way that sometimes listening to a song and you tune into it and you're just like, my God, this guy is, or girl, or is going through exactly what I'm going through. And it might be a different way, but the feeling is both the same for us. And I think that's the amazing thing about writing, is that you can almost write that song for yourself.
Incredible, yeah. Because actually, the way you say there's actually a technique with psychology, in that if you're having these irrational thoughts or you're having these strange feelings, the best thing to do is write them down, in terms of managing the cognitive side of things. And that's in a way kind of translating into your music. And sometimes it's like, listen, I'm worried about something. Let's write it down. Let's see what the scenario plays out. And then potentially you either deal with it because it's on the page, or at least it is on the page and those feelings have been expressed some way, so you don't have to kind of hold them in. Is that kind of something that you can
Exactly.
relate to too? Yeah.
It kind of almost takes the noise out of my head and puts it somewhere else. And I think as well, you can almost take yourself away. Like I've got a song which will probably be my next song out after my new single, that it's like the lyric for the chorus is that I'll sit down by the riverside and wait for you. And I can be in that spot. I can almost see it in my mind. So it's almost like a break from, you know, especially at the moment, like, you know, all the time that I'm spending in the flat, I can almost take myself somewhere else, which I think is what amazing music does. That, you know, I used to always listen to Bowie when I was cleaning, and it would be like Friday night was starting. It just gives you it just takes you somewhere different, which is like the most amazing thing about it.
Yeah, I am in the last, say, 12 to 18 months, somebody who I really enjoy kind of a mix of his music is JP Cooper.
Yeah.
And for me, he's very good at telling stories, but he brings a kind of a different vibe that I hadn't heard before. But I think I can relate to a lot of his music for whatever reason. And I think if people who are listening can relate to your music, then all of a sudden barriers are broken down completely, you know?
For sure. And one of my absolute heroes is Damien Dempsey. So the Irish folk singer, obviously. And he, in so many ways, in that, like, the places that he goes with his music, that, you know, it can really raise you up on a bad day, but it also can be quite educational and quite political, but also can be really funny. And I went to his gig, it's obviously not this March, but the March before. And you know, it's maybe like 300 people there in London, and everyone was singing pretty much every song. And you're like, this is, for me, that is real success, in that he's making the exact music that he wants to make. And the people that love it absolutely adore it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think
And I'd say
that for me would be the dream.
I'd say there's no better feeling as a musician to be standing on a stage and listening to the audience singing back your lyrics. I'd say that would be just mind spine tingling, you know.
Yeah, and also
So
actually, it's been a big influence in that him in particular, that he's got a lot of darkness and a lot of positivity, but he really tries to bring a kind of communion and a communal kind of lift, and that's something that, like, because I was writing some really dark stuff, but I'm trying to have an element of more hope now. So it's got both sides. Because I feel like, especially like the last few months, like that's something that I want to kind of try and get into my music as well. The hope that things are going to come good.
Yeah, I think that's an unbelievable attitude to have, because you're seeing in the last number of months, especially, that a lot of people are downtrodden and a lot of people are mentally and physically worn out from what's going on, and finding it hard to see hope and finding it hard to look at the optimistic side of life. And I think you can see optimism through people's creativity, because people have had to become far more creative now and finding new ways to create income streams, new ways to exercise, new ways to express themselves. And I think there's a lot of hope in seeing others doing that, because that can essentially motivate you to do more. And I've noticed it for myself, is that I'm watching people now who would never have considered, say, a digital aspect of their business now moving into a digital world. You know, I've seen people who would never have thought that, for example, Zoom classes would be something that they would adapt to, but it's something that has made their life far, far easier. You know, so these type of things, even Brezzy, I don't know if you know Brezzy over here. So he is a musician, and he is he's a former professional rugby player, but he's also I can't think of the name of the band that he played in. That is shocking. But basically, anyway, what he did was he was sitting at home during the pandemic, and himself and his mum were chatting, and he basically turned to his mum and started teaching her the ukulele, and she found that she had a purpose all of a sudden. So from teaching her the ukulele, then he ended up saying, right, I could actually do this for loads of people. So he bought 450 different ukuleles and sent them around to people all over the country, and invited them to be part of a kind of like an online community where they could all learn the ukulele. And they did for 6 to 8 weeks. And at the end of it, they wrote a song and they played the song.
That's amazing.
And that type of creativity is, people beforehand would never have thought of picking up a ukulele, any instrument, let alone a ukulele.
Yeah.
And now they've created a single. So I think there's a huge opportunity and for optimism, hope, and creativity in times when it's very challenging.
Yeah, that's the main story, because I think it's amazing, because the music industry, and I guess a lot of the arts, it can feel a bit narcissistic at times. I mean, for me, because, you know, being a solo guy, sometimes I find it a bit much when it's like kind of all the attention on me. But actually, like that guy's done, he's kind of taken what he's doing and putting it out in a way that kind of a huge group of people can benefit from his talent, which is a really nice way of doing things at the moment. It's really quite inspiring.
Yeah, Brezzy is the lead singer of the Blizzards. That's the name of the band that he's involved in. So let's talking about your music now, and the fact that you're finding various pieces of inspiration in what you're experiencing at the moment. You've recently released a single called Heart on Fire, which, fair play to you, I think is absolutely beautifully done. And I think it's a gorgeous song and really, really well put together. But for people who don't know this song and may not have heard it, could you maybe talk to me about this specific song and what it is? What was the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, well, thank you also for your kind words about it. But yeah, so basically it's a song about a couple, Riona Kelly and Keith Mason, who have been through like some incredibly hard times and just had an incredible comeback, really, in that Riona basically had a spinal stroke at age 34. She fell down the stairs and suffered that and was left paralyzed. Her husband then left her with the kids. So she was basically as low as you can be. And basically met Keith, who had just retired from playing rugby, and he helped with her rehab. And then later on, they fell in love, and now she's walking. They've combined their families, and they're just incredible couple, an incredible show of kind of support and love, perseverance. And basically, I was kind of made aware of them and what was going on. And a couple of conversations happened, and they kind of suggested to write a song for them to soundtrack this challenge that they're going to do, which is going to be incredible. It's going to be 100 miles with Keith is going to pull her in her wheelchair for 99. And then Riona is going to walk the last mile, which is like a huge thing. Like it's a massive physical challenge because she's told she would never walk again. So, and she can walk a bit, but I mean, a mile's like a long, long way. So yeah, basically the song is, I tried to kind of capture their story, and I really didn't want to put out something like, it was a tricky brief in a way, because I wanted to write something uplifting and kind of fit in with the story and what they're trying to present. But I also wanted to have the element of how hard it's been and how dark it was in a 3.5-minute song. So yeah. I hope I've got there. But yeah, I've tried to kind of cover the story and show both sides of it.
I think what's interesting in that is that you had 3.5 minutes. So famous advertiser and creative, Ogilvy is his name. He basically said, give me the freedom of a tight brief. And what he meant by that is to actually allow me to be creative under some sort of parameters. And I think that's exactly what you've done, is that you've brought through a story, like you can listen to the words, which I think are brilliant, but you go through a story from tough, hard times and darkness into hope, into light, into optimism. And I think that's a beautiful kind of way to picture life, in that, yes, there are dark times, but stay optimistic, stay positive in a way, stay optimistic to know that today is going to be crap, but tomorrow actually will be that bit better because of all the work you're doing today. And what was it like for you to separate any potential emotions that you potentially had that could relate to ensure that it was specific to Riona and Keith's story?
Yeah, I mean, that was tricky, because basically kind of needed to pitch them something at the beginning. But I was like, I don't really feel comfortable pitching a song to you when I don't really know your story. Like, you know, could I say something that ends up being offensive, or just there's something that's just wrong? But at the same time, I don't like writing, you know, I don't want to put a load of bland cliches in there. And like, so normally I write for myself. I've never written anything for anyone else or from anyone else's point of view. So that was tricky, because I kind of had to pitch them something like, you know, at home on my iPhone with the acoustic. And obviously I know where it's going to go, but I kind of almost couldn't really write it until I'd spoken to them about it deeper. But yeah, I mean, it's about 6 days from me starting it to starting recording, which is kind of tight.
Jesus,
but, yeah. So yeah, it was a really good experience. Actually, it was a good test. It was like nice to be put on the spot, and it's also nice in a way, in a songwriting way, to kind of know that I can do it if pushed.
Yeah.
So normally
that you've probably seen a different side of yourself in terms of when you're under a little bit of pressure, how you can work under that pressure and the type of product that you can create.
Exactly. And I think I respond really well to deadlines, but normally my way of writing is I'll write, say, 80% of the song, and then I might take a year finishing that last 20% and refining it. And this was not that project. So yeah,
bit of a perfectionist will.
Yeah, it was a really good challenge, and it was good to try and give them something as well. Like, it was nice to have it was nice for them to inspire me, and then I give it back, and then hopefully that's something that inspires you know, when they're walking or whatever. Hopefully it's kind of just an energy that keeps going.
And what's the objective with this single? Is it to raise funds?
Yes, exactly. So basically Riona has kind of her next phase of rehab, which is going to cost about 10 grand for 6 weeks. But it should be like really, hopefully quite transformative. So we're trying to raise some money for that. Obviously, if we can raise money on top, that will go to other stroke survivors. So what we're doing, the song is actually purchase only, so it's not available on streaming. I don't know if people have seen lately that in the UK, the government are investigating the streaming sites for because they basically don't pay artists, essentially. They pay the artists such a small amount. So this song is only going to be available for purchase because we want Riona and hopefully other stroke survivors to have that money.
Brilliant. And where can they find the song then if people want to purchase it?
Yeah, so the moment they can find it on my website, which is willpurdue.com, or they can find it on my Bandcamp, which is I think willpurdue.bandcamp.com. There is going to be a Just Giving. So basically the challenge that Riona and Keith are doing, that will have its own Just Giving and all the stuff around that, and you'll also be able to purchase it there.
You set my heart, you set my heart on fire. You set my heart, you set my heart on fire.
Thanks to everybody for listening to part 1. There's more to follow in part 2. If you'd like to download Will's single and support Riona and Keith's journey, then head to willpurdue.bandcamp.com. It's a great song, guys, and it's for a great cause. So if you can do so, please support and give whatever you can. Also, if you'd like to follow Will on Instagram, you can find him at Will Purdue. Until next time.